Good morning. I am Koos, current mayor of the town of Normal. I am a lifelong resident of the town of Normal and the city of Bloomington, born and raised here. Went to Central Catholic High School. I like to say Trinity High School, but nobody will remember that. Illinois State University. I spent 3 years in the military during the Vietnam War. Came back, started a small business in the community, actually joined a small business in the community, and have been active in the community my entire adult life. I believe that you don't live in great communities, you help to make great communities. And there are people that are doing the heavy lifting that make communities stand out and unique. And I feel like you've got to be part of that, to have a community where people want to live, work, and play at a very high quality level. I certainly believe in quality of life in the community, but I also believe that at the beginning of the day, you've got to get it right. You've got to have sound financials, you've got to have good public services, you've got to have high quality public safety, police and fire. Those are the ground rules, that's the floor for getting into the game. And having that done right allows you to focus on some of the other issues, the quality of life issues in the community. Things like our parks, our swimming pools, Children's Discovery Museum, the Normal Theater. These are all things that add a unique flavor to the fabric of our community and really help to define a place where people want to stay, want to raise their families, want to start their businesses, want to expand their businesses. So I still have a lot of passion for the job. I care very deeply about my community, and I'm looking forward to another 4 years as your mayor.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me here. I'm Marc Tiritilli. I'm running for mayor of Normal. I moved down to Normal in '97. I grew up around the Chicago area. I had my wife down here going to ISU. I was in the midst of a career change. I spent about 15 years in industry, working in maintenance and repair as a mechanic and electrician, solving problems in a fast-paced, high-pressure environment. My father was a high school teacher in Chicago for a long time, and along the way I decided I wanted to have more of a direct impact on people's lives. So I came down here to get my teaching degree. Started teaching at Tremont in 2003. Moved to Danvers for a few years. I served on the town council out there. I was also on the volunteer fire department. Really enjoyed that. And when we had our first child, we decided we needed to relocate for a while to Philadelphia. That didn't really strike our fancy after a few years, so we could have gone anywhere, and we wanted to come back to Normal. We really do love it here. It is a great community. And a lot of great things have been done here, but the reason why I'm running is because I don't think the way we've been doing some of these things is sustainable. So over these last 14 years, we've accumulated $94 million in debt. There's $53 million in interest on top of that we owe. And some of those fundamentals, the pension funding, has gone to $109 million shortfall. That's $250 million that we owe on top of running the town. So while these things are great, we could have gone about them in a smarter way. We're going to pay $53 million more for Uptown than we needed to. So it's a question of sustainability. And quality of life encompasses our taxes, how much disposable income we have. It does include the things like parks and pools, but it's also about how livable is your everyday life. And I strongly believe that lower taxes and smarter spending are going to be the way to do that. So that's why I'm asking for your vote on April 4th.
Okay, great. First question. What is your position on offering sales tax and other economic incentives to secure retail and other development as the town did with Portillo's? Mary, you want to start?
Sure. Those are issues that have to be taken on a case-by-case basis, whether to incent or not to incent. What is the purpose of the incentive? It's not just to lure a business here. In the situation of Portillo's, actually our agreement is not with Portillo's, it is with the developer. And the major reasons that we did that particular development was twofold. First, it is a significant sales tax generator for the community. The current property generates about $30,000 in sales tax, and real estate tax, and the Portillo's will generate from $350,000 to $450,000 a year. Second-fold, and more importantly, is the long-term approach on that development, and that is trying to open an area that I think is underperforming on what I would call AAA real estate in the community. We have a lot of businesses that are looking to relocate, mostly retailers, and they would like to be on the Parkway, and we have a lot of some well-performing, but some marginally performing offices that face Veterans Parkway, and this is valuable real estate. It's the same thing that we're doing with Distill a little farther north. Again, we're trying to generate some activity in that area. There's developable land in that area, and we're trying to open that land for development. It goes to the overall financial well-being of the community, and it's not a short play. It is a long-term play.
Marc?
I disagree with the use of incentives to bring a business to a location for a few reasons. First of all is that the incentive puts you in such a hole. So let's take a look at this Portillo's deal. We're going to have to give them nearly $2 million in sales tax rebates plus interest on it. So whoever crafted that deal somehow got the town to pay 8% interest on their own money. Now, that sales tax is only 5.5 cents on the dollar. So to get the $2 to $2.5 million, we've got to sell over $40 million worth of hot dogs before we even get that money. That's not going to happen in a few years. And here's the really sad part is that that money is not going to be new sales. Maybe a small portion of it will be, but because that money is mostly what people would have spent elsewhere in the community, we're just simply giving up the sales tax. So you've put yourself in such a hole that ultimately the deal is not profitable. Now, here's where this gets to the sustainability idea that I talked about, is we are taking perfectly good businesses and uprooting them. We do have other retail space available. Just up the road are all those open lots in front of Menards by the old Saturn place as well. So I'm seeing this pattern over and over again. Let's take, for example, the plans for Uptown, where they want to move the library south of the tracks and replace the police station, the old city hall, Parks and Rec. Those buildings still have a lot of life in them, at least another 40, 50 years. So we're going to throw away the investment that our predecessors made in the community. To me, that's not a good use of our resources. There's ways to bring these businesses into town where we don't have to put ourselves in such a hole that we can't get out of it. And if the deal is that costly, you know, if we were worried about Portillo's going somewhere else, then let them go somewhere else and have somebody else waste their money on it. I believe they would have come here anyway. They've been trying for years to develop a Portillo's here in town, and they would have found a suitable location because Tartan really wanted to bring them here, and I'm sure they would have found a way without the incentives.
Okay. Question 2. Excuse me. The future of the Metro Zone agreement is still in dispute, but the town is proceeding with plans to recover that lost revenue. How should the town go about doing that? Marc, you want to start?
For me, the Metro Zone should just be let go. Bloomington has made it very clear that they're done with this. I don't think it's in our interest to pursue the kind of scolding of Bloomington or even be aggressive in the relationship with that. The idea behind it was an interesting one when it was created to promote the infrastructure that needed to occur out there, but that's long since been paid for, and now there's just this. So I think it's time to put that relationship to bed. And in general, I don't like the idea of revenue sharing because it leads to just these kinds of conflicts. So I'm all for working together with Bloomington, but we'll take care of our finances. They can take care of their finances, and we can both run a tight ship so that we can cooperate in the community. This is like trying to build a shed with your neighbor where you share the costs, and sooner or later someone starts to fight over, your tractor's over on my side of the line. I think it really sets you up for just these kinds of bad relationships. So I'm not in favor of the Metro Zone.
Mayor?
To me, the Metro Zone is an example of regional cooperation. And moving forward as a community, Bloomington and Normal, McLean County, we have to take a regional approach. We have got to look at a unified approach as how we approach development in our community, economic vitality in our community, possibly bringing new businesses into the community like Rivian Automotive. So there needs to be regional cooperation. The Metro Zone was a contract, 2 parties in the contract. The contract clearly stated that the parties would share costs associated with the Metro Zone, and that is infrastructure, and there was significant investment early on. Infrastructure, roads, water, sewer, electrification, all those costs were shared. And the agreement was that the revenues would be shared, and that had worked well for about 30-some years. We certainly understand that Bloomington has an issue with it and wants to unwind that, and we're amenable to that. And we have said time and again, let's figure out a way to end this contract that both people can agree with. One party acting unilaterally in a contract between two entities is not a foundation for moving forward on future cooperations. It breaks a level of trust, again, we're more than anxious to get to the table and have a true conversation on what this Metro Zone is, and why it needs to be unwound, and where do we go forward from that. But it can't be a one-sided conversation.
Okay, great, thank you. Economic development discussions often focus on attracting new businesses. But how will you help businesses that come to Normal, like Rivian, thrive and stay here? Mary, you want to start?
Sure, and again, it depends on the businesses, and it's not all about new businesses. It's about existing businesses, too. When we started redevelopment in Uptown, while we gave incentives for some of the hotel projects, smaller businesses that expanded, like Garlic Press Market Cafe, DP Dough, Coffee Hound, places like that were existing businesses in the community that wanted to take advantage of the expansion opportunities. So as you look at business and incentive and cooperation from government, you have to look at existing businesses, helping them to grow their businesses organically, locally, and the opportunity to attract a new business. Now, when Rivian came here, it's quite interesting. They came here to buy equipment at auction. They had no interest in the community. But when they started poking around the community and seeing what kind of community it was, the values that mirrored what their values were, plus the fact that the Mitsubishi plant was a very viable plant, they kind of changed their tune and decided that they wanted to manufacture in Bloomington Normal. So, being a startup company, the incentives that we offered Rivian were tied to performance. They don't get a penny until they meet some pretty significant performance standards. $20 million of the first installment of incentives, $20 million of investment in the plant, 100 jobs, and then it's tied to job growth and more investment in the community before they get a penny. This was presented to all the taxing bodies involved in that, in that package of incentives. Everybody unanimously approved that incentive package for the future, and it shows a community, again, taking the long-term approach on how we develop our community.
I want to address a couple things about Rivian first. I imagine we'll talk about it down the line here, get back to the original question on that. I spoke with R.J. Scaringe, the CEO of Rivian, at length during those meetings in December. And he said that one of the main reasons they were looking to keep things here is they wanted the big hydraulic presses that are in there to stamp out entire sides of cars. And those things are enormous, and they're enormously expensive to move. And so it made a lot of economic sense simply to leave them in place rather than try and ship them up to Michigan. So that was a big part of it as well. I assume we'll talk about Rivian down the road here. But in terms of what the government's role is in bringing businesses to the community, Normal already has tremendous assets. We sit on 3 interstates. We've got rail lines that are connected to a lot of the businesses here. We've got a talented workforce. We've got 2 universities in town. We are far and away the destination in terms of infrastructure in central Illinois. So that's already here. For me, the missing piece is having people to be the fertile fields for businesses to thrive in. People need money in their pockets to spend on goods and services. That's what's really going to attract business. You get that by lowering the tax burden. If there's going to be some kind of incentive program, and I think there should be, they should be available to all businesses, not a select couple that are being incented. So something like the facade grants that were available when Uptown was being redeveloped, where any business could apply and get some benefit for that, or something that might even be more town-wide. I think those are appropriate programs where everybody can take advantage of what we're trying to do in the community. But singling out specific businesses to get a foot up ahead of their competition, I think is really bad for the economy, and it puts more of a burden on the taxpayers. So to me, the real role is to make people's lives easier by lowering their taxes so they can then cause the economy to grow. That's how we should be approaching this.
And just to counter on that, when we single out a business, it's not to incent that business. That's transactional. That's saying, okay, we want this business and community, we'll incent that. We never do that. We always look at it strategically. It's like, what does this business draw other businesses into the community? What kind of other economic activities does that draw? Let's take the Marriott Hotel, a conferencing hotel. That hotel was key to Illinois State University and their mission as a university. It helped new restaurants and existing restaurants in the uptown to establish. That's strategic investment. That's not transactional investment. You know, that hotel and the Hyatt Hotel across the street from it brings 120,000 unique visitors to our community. And they stay in our community, they shop in our community. Maybe they'll get a notion that they want to live in our community as a result of that stay. So that's strategic investment.
I have one quick response on that. Businesses are targeted, and Portillo's deal was a specific example of that. I mean, the mayor even said it, it's the hot dog everybody wants. You know, this is the one that we're trying to bring. It was specifically targeted that we bring Portillo's here because we were worried that somebody else would get it. So these are targeted incentives.
Okay. Question 4. What public service offered by the town, facility or otherwise, will be your highest priority and how will you improve it? Mark, you want to start on that one?
In the same boat you are. Can you re-ask that in a
Okay.
different way?
What public service offered by the town, whether it's a facility or otherwise, will be your highest priority and how will you improve it?
I think the one that needs the most attention right now is the streets, the public works. We have a lot of great programs that the town offers, but the public works right now, we need to do more with our roads. There's a lot more resurfacing that could be done. I had a conversation with Chris over a year ago at the last budget presentation, and we were talking about the road budget, and he said, well, I could triple the road budget. You know, there's that much of a need out there. My question was, well, why don't we? You know, people would throw rose petals at your feet. But this year's budget, if you look at it, the street resurfacing was $2.8 million last year. It's going down to $600,000 in the upcoming year. There's a classic example of this with the Pine Street Route 66 Museum. We're putting roughly $1 million into that project. We spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to rip out and totally replace the parking lot over there. There's lots of other improvements going in. But the actual road of Route 66 that it sits on, the concrete is not just cracked, it's buckled in, and that's not being fixed. So for me, that's just the epitome of the priorities being in the wrong place. So we need to take care of the roads and the infrastructure first. There's a lot of places in town where it's just been cold patch on cold patch. It lasted a couple of months. We need to improve that budget. There's a couple of other issues in public works where their capital reserves are being drawn down. I want to make sure that those core programs that the town offers are fully funded and even expanded so that we can get a better handle on some of that.
Mayor?
So I think I would have to agree infrastructure is a focus in the community. Facilities, not so much. I think we do a pretty good job of staying on top of our facilities. But we have significant sewer projects and continuing water infrastructure investments in the community that we need to stay ahead of, and we've done a pretty good job on that. We have some projects coming forward in the community on sewer and water projects, upgrades, mostly in residential areas, some in some commercial areas. Street resurfacing, it's always kind of a double-edged sword when you're running a campaign because April is pothole season. March and April are pothole season. And you're right, we have a lot of cold patch because there are no asphalt plants open to get hot mix to do a thorough patch. In terms of our street budget, the actual number this year is $5.6 million. that we are investing in our roads, and that includes resurfacing, concrete street repairs, bridge work, road extensions. So to say that we're not investing any money in our road system is disingenuous. We are putting significant dollars into our road system, and our concrete streets are some that we're very concerned about. About a year and a half ago, we hired an independent company to come in and do an overall evaluation of the street system in Wilmington Normal. And their response was that the streets were very good. They didn't say they were perfect. They'll never be perfect. It's always, every year you have to get out and work on it. But overall, we had a very good evaluation on our streets, and we had a comprehensive list and a prioritization of how we would deal with what needed to be dealt with.
Okay.
One quick response to that. So figures I quoted were on street resurfacing, but when we looked at the total budget from last year, Mark Peterson quoted that at $7 million. So again, it is down a couple $1 million this year.
Gentlemen, this is the last question. It's kind of a way of allowing you to summarize your appearance with this. Real simple. Why should the voters of Normal elect you? Mary, you want to go first?
Sure. I'm asking for the vote and for the town of Normal voters for another term as mayor, because I think I have much more to offer the community. I have a lot of passion for what's involved in the community. I have vision for things going forward in the community, trying to grow our local businesses and attract new businesses. Things that I can do that make people want to live in this community, and this is very important. Working with the schools going forward, because in today's world, if you've got the talent, then you grow the businesses. So to develop a community where our young talent wants to stay in this community because it's a place they want to live, it's a place that's exciting for them, it's a place that they feel comfortable being, so that they will stay in this community, and the State Farms and the Rivians and the Country Financials will have the talent they need to thrive in our community. So again, I've learned over the years not to look at what's happening today as much as I look at what's going to happen in the next 5 years. I've learned to become very strategic about where we go as a community. I always am looking at the future and trying to leverage what our assets are, what our opportunities are to grow this community.
Mark?
I would agree that there's a lot of great things in this community, and I too look forward. I mean, when you talk about looking 5 years forward, here's the 5-year plan, and I go through it a lot. I agree with him that we need to be strategic. My real concern is that what we're doing is just simply not sustainable. All the borrowing that we've done, he admitted in the last debate, has put us in a position where we have to say no to certain projects or couldn't take on advantageous projects down the road. So if you want to talk about the long-term view, we're paying for all of this out past 2040. There were better ways to do this. It's about the details. It's not that we shouldn't be having these great things. I think a lot of the assets that we have in the community are being put at risk. The high taxes are one of those key factors. They are essential to everybody's quality of life. Someone summarized it really well at the school board meeting about Rivian back in December. Because the school board has to go to the voters to get their finances. The town council can raise taxes whenever they want. And this person got up and said, the problem is that Normal has poisoned the well for Unit 5. There's no way they can get a tax referendum through because the taxes are already so high. I mean, the county tried that in 2014. They said, hey, let's have a 1% sales tax increase to benefit all the schools. That sounds like a great idea, and the voters rejected it 2-1. I mean, they're saying, yeah, that's great, but we just can't afford it. The town council just decides to raise the tax then on their own for all these other projects. And we're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to acquire property south of the tracks, again, to tear down perfectly good buildings. We're being wasteful with the money we have. We need to get our debt under control. We need to put ourselves on a sounder financial footing. And while we've been very good at paying our bills, and that's why we have a AAA rating, it says nothing about whether or not we're borrowing too much. And the town's own financial reports say we are actually over some of our benchmarks. We're beyond what we should have in terms of borrowing, and the projected growth that Mr. Koos wants to continue is going to put us tens of millions of dollars further down the road. So I'm looking to change that and to put us on a better financial footing.
I want to talk about the debt and a couple of things. You know, the money that we've taken in bonded debt is an investment. And it really needs to be looked at as an investment. So let's look at the $94 million that is being talked about right now. Shave $15 million of that off because that was infrastructure. That was replacing 100-year-old sewers, water lines, and some very bad roads and some road realignments that needed to happen. So then you've got the balance of that money, which leveraged over $200 million of private investments in the community. That's about a 285% return on investment. That's smart business to do that. You've got to invest to grow your community. The town does have a AAA bond rating. 97% of the communities in the United States do not have that. Only 3% of the communities do. And that is not a reflection of our ability to borrow or what we borrowed, but it's a reflection of our ability to manage our debt and have clear revenue sources that identify the payment of that debt going forward. As far as going forward and tens of millions of dollars of new projects, we do not undertake a project until we have identified a clear funding source for that project. No funding source, no project.
So again, that's the basis for the AAA rating. The town's manager said, you know, we can't borrow anymore without more revenue. So that means that if we're going to do these projects, and it's clear they do, if you look at the master plans, that's going to require more revenue. Okay, that's going to require, like it says, more revenue. It's going to be even more taxes. The AAA rating is on the bond itself. It means that the finance department, and we have a wonderful finance department, has done a good job of identifying monies to make sure the bills get paid. But it's not about our credit rating. The state of Illinois has a terrible credit rating, but yet they can issue a AAA bond in August because it's tied to the sales tax. Moody's says, we're concerned about our debt in normal. We're concerned about the lack of pension funding. We're concerned about the slow amortization, but you can raise taxes anytime you want, so we'll give you that AAA rating. As far as being an investment in the community, that's implying that none of this would have occurred without borrowing, and that's just simply not true. There are other ways to do development. We've seen that time and again. And you know, that natural course of business would have made things more profitable in here. So I'm not proposing we tear anything down. It's great, we've got it, it is a tremendous asset to the community. I want to preserve it by getting our debt down faster. So yes, you take out a mortgage to buy your home, but what's the smartest thing a homeowner can do is to make advance payments on the principal, and that's not what we're doing. We've got a slow amortization, Moody's recognizes it, we're throwing millions of dollars away in projects that, you know, are incentivizing other businesses or are really should be taking a backseat to these higher priorities of debt reduction. Every dollar we spend on the debt right now is going to save 50 cents in interest down the road. That's the long-term view. That's what we need to be working on.
Just a quick point of order. The only reason the state of Illinois could issue a AAA bond rating is because at significant cost to the state of Illinois, they bought bond insurance. They do not have the rating.
No, they don't, but the bond itself does, and that's what we're
Only
looking at
with
here.
significant insurance that they had to purchase.
Right. Again, it's a rating of how likely the bond is to be repaid. Has no statement about what kind of shape the town itself is in. So Moody's is saying, we totally expect Normal's bonds to be paid. We expect Normal to pay its bills. That's great, but doesn't say that Normal should keep borrowing money.
Well, gentlemen, thank you for coming up. It was a good debate, and we appreciate your time.
Great.
Good luck on
Thank you.
Tuesday.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.